All right, well, we already have one of the highest COVID infection rates in the world, and now the number of Aussies catching the virus for a second or third time is on the rise too. While it's happening nationwide, Victoria's recorded the most, with 20,000 reinfections. New South Wales has had more than 11,300. That's more than half of those happening since last November.
Well, here to talk us through it is infectious diseases expert Paul Griffin in his splendid blue spectacles. Paul, why are so many people getting reinfected?
Yeah, look, we know that people can get some protection from reinfection after they've been infected, but it's quite variable and not necessarily long-lasting, and that's why we need people, even if you've had COVID, to continue with your scheduled vaccination course. And we've also seen the virus change in recent times. We had Omicron late last year, BA1, then we saw BA2, and now we've got a number of other subvariants that we don't necessarily get great protection after infection with the previous one. So there's a few reasons we're seeing reinfections, and that's why we need people to understand it's actually not uncommon, and to make sure they get tested and keep up with their vaccination course, even if they've had COVID.
The numbers seem extraordinary right now, but I also think as a community we're a bit less fascinated by COVID at this point in the pandemic. Are the numbers accurate?
Look, we think they're probably a gross underestimate at the moment. We've seen a lot of fatigue, and a lot of people think that really the pandemic's done, when in fact it's not the case. We still saw around 30,000 cases today, and it's likely to maybe be a fraction of what's really out there. So we do need people to keep COVID in mind, not to panic, of course, but just to get the simple things right. Get tested if you have symptoms, keep up with your scheduled vaccination course, and that way we'll know more about what's going on and take the right steps to address it.
And what about the sort of after effects? Like, could having COVID over and over again do more damage to your body?
We don't necessarily think that having it over again will do more damage in a cumulative sort of a way, but I guess the risk there is that any time you get COVID, there are a proportion of people that will have some lasting effects or get more severe disease, and that's why we need people not to get complacent if they've had COVID and assume that it's nothing to worry about. We just need people to have that right perception of risk so that they take simple steps to control that risk moving forward.
Hey, Paul, obviously nobody here, no one watching wants us to go back into lockdowns. Please know I've finished Netflix. So short of this, what can we do to try and protect ourselves from reinfection rates getting any worse?
Yeah, look, we certainly don't want to contemplate any of those harsher restrictions like lockdowns. I don't think that they're going to be necessary any time again soon. What we need people to do is just have the right perception of risk to get the basics right. Have a low threshold to get tested. So any symptoms, get tested for COVID, and now, of course, also the flu. And those really basic things that we'd like to see a sustained behavioural change in that people wash their hands, stay apart from one another, wear a mask maybe in high-risk situations, look at ventilation, and if you're holding a gathering, maybe try and do that outdoors or at least with some extra ventilation, for example. Just those basics so that we do reduce the risk of ongoing transmission and more people catching COVID.
Can I please wear the mask below my nose? My nose is big and it hurts. And I'm done with it.
Well, it's those big noses we really need protected as well. So be good to make sure you wear those masks properly.
That sounds like a definite no from Paul there.
Paul Griffin, thanks for your time tonight.
Pleasure, thank you.
Yeah.
So rude.
You've been told. You've been told.
I mean, you do have a big nose now that I'm looking at it from this angle. I never noticed it before.
You never noticed it before.
I don't say I have either.
I haven't either. Do you know who's happy about that nose? Is drug dealers in the UK.